Hey, welcome back, everybody, to Campfire Conversations, where we have short leadership lessons, lessons that we've experienced and walked through. We want to share them with you guys. And today, Brad and I are going to be unpacking a photo finish. Behind me, I went to the Indy 500. Brad, it's something that I've never done, and actually was kind of interesting, the backstory. I work with a client here in Indianapolis, and about a year and a half ago, they said, you should come back for the Indy race. And I said, well, first we got to solve some of the riddles and challenges in your business. And if I do good enough, I'll be around in 16 months. And about a month ago, I text Sean and I said, Sean, let's go to the Indy 500 and set it all up. And then we'll do some coaching consulting. And so y'all, for anybody who's never been, it is the greatest spectacle in racing. Yeah. It is unbelievable. Brad, there was 400,000 people. Yeah. And they made it look easy until we had to leave. Getting there was easy. Finding seats. We actually ran into people we knew. Leaving was a different story. I imagine something had to do with alcohol. But anyways, before we jump in, you talk about unreasonable hospitality. So I check in my room super late. It was like midnight. And the guy goes, there's a present in your room. And I'm thinking, well, I am like Marriott, whatever, ambassador, or elite.
Yeah.
And it was a big race bag. And in that bag, as I open it all out, Brad, there's a purple shirt. And anybody goes on the Purple Coaching Facebook page or the Instagram or whatever else, they can see I had a custom purple Indy 500 shirt. Yeah. And we don't have time to talk about how that led to a ton of connections because I was the only person in purple. I was also the only person with all my sleeves on and my jeans weren't cut off. But anyways, so I pull it out. I'm like, this is fantastic. And then I pull out purple earplugs. I'm like, that's awesome. And I'm like, surely it's it. And I pull out a flag and said, everybody needs a checker flag. And I was like, this is great. And then I start pulling out gifts for my kids. And I don't have the third one on me right now, but my kids each got a gift. And I got to thinking about how Stephanie knows that I live for my kids. I'm actually here because I care to pave a legacy for my kids. And so anyways, we go to the race. It was rainy on Friday. Brad, there's so many people at this freaking race. I kid you not. There's no exaggeration. The amount of people and the energy from the car pushes storm cells away. It rained all around this track except for on us. I'm not kidding. And I don't think it was a God thing. It was because there's 400,000 people.
Yeah.
A lot of cigarettes and cars. So anyways, you watched it.
So I'll confess, I only watched some highlight reels about the end of the race.
Well, I mean, they go left for 4 hours. So,
but I was so blown away by how it ended. One of the cool things, you have to think most people don't watch Indy racing. One of the coolest things about Indy racing,
most people, 400,000 people do.
It's a fairly unpopular sport, though, in the scheme of people understanding it, and all the cars are the same. And it's very different than almost any other kind of racing because of the similarities in the cars, which allows a lot to happen. So I think kind of setting up the end of this in most racing, I'm a huge Formula One fan, there wouldn't have been that many lead changes on the last lap. Even in NASCAR, the cars are more different than they are in IndyCar. The cars are actually spec. They're all built by a company called Dallara. So there is this opportunity. You come down to this last thing, and a lot can happen in a couple of corners, and it makes for a really, really exciting thing. So I just think just kind of setting that up. Most people probably don't know about the nuances of Indy racing, but they're so similar that it comes down to the tiniest decisions that people make.
I love how you set that up because I didn't know that, and I was sitting there thinking that the only thing that won this race was a decision and a strategy. Because every car pretty much is the same. Like you mentioned, I mean, they got 4 tires. Everyone's like this. All the drivers have very similar backgrounds. And you're just turning left. I mean, they literally all follow the same path. I mean, it's unbelievable. So I'm glad you set that up. And so I watched the whole race, and it was unbelievable to see different strategies evolve. At first, the strategy is just get through the first lap. That's what they always say, just finish the first lap. And I can't remember her name, but she was going to do the Indy 500 and then the 600 after she was going to take a helicopter. Do you remember her name?
No, but I'm just familiar with drivers who've done.
So she was going to be the first woman that did it. She did. I didn't go check to see how well she did, but she wrecked out at lap 18. Now, what was interesting about her was she actually made a decision on lap 18. Am I going to try and drive through this wreck, but the likelihood of really hurting or killing somebody is high, or do I veer off? And so it was really incredible. I mean, everybody wants to save the car. Nobody wants to get in a wreck. But I mean, the amount of smoke, she could have gone high, and she possibly saved that man's life. What was interesting too about, since you watch NASCAR, lap 18 they honored Kyle Busch. And so I think there was something to be had there. I mean, going 220 miles an hour at somebody, and she veered off and wrecked out. So, anyways, but the strategy is get through lap 1. And then 2 and 3. Well, as the race progresses and all these yellows come out and stuff, strategy has to change because you're using different fuel. And I noticed this gentleman could have easily been first. And you're talking about lead changes? They were changing leads the majority of the first 100 laps to conserve fuel. It was really interesting. Like, I was like I guess for like you take half the lap, I take half the lap. The lap's 2.5 miles. Anyways. The winner ended up draining his tank and taking basically skipped a pit stop. And it's so interesting you're talking about these cars being so similar. A pit stop on average puts you about 30 seconds behind. I'm not sure what that means in NASCAR world, but 30 seconds is a lot to catch up. So the strategy put these people in position to win. Connor Daly, he's a hometown hero. To be totally honest with you, I think he's one of the better drivers because he's highly aggressive, young guy. But I don't know where his strategy was. I mean, that guy was leading the pack the whole time, but he pit stopped like 4 times towards the end. So anyways, but then you talk about the decision. And you text me on the photo finish, and I was like, oh, Brad, I've got to do some like digging. What lessons and impact do you think happened to the first place and the second place? Do you think the person who got first place is going to get victory disease? Do you think the second place is going to train harder, bigger, faster? And I got to thinking about that and thinking there's a lot of lessons to unpack. I mean, oh my gosh, the guy that got second place, if you guys should go watch it. I mean,
devastated.
Yeah. And he must have been floored. So a couple of the things that I've learned about racing is the momentum from other cars. So when you're leading the pack, you actually have the most resistance. And so you can kind of slingshot around people. So it's actually not the safest place to be sometimes. And so anyways, I was thinking about that, and I was like, what about the guy that had to make a decision that was in third place? And so for anybody who wasn't watching the race, there was a third person, and they were actually teammates. The winner, and I don't know if you can pronounce his name. I suck at pronouncing names.
Rosenquist.
Yeah, Rosenquist. Okay, you're in charge of saying his name. So Rosenquist and Armstrong are teammates. They race for the same Meyer Shank Racing, and Armstrong said I had a decision to either lift or possibly crash. I mean, they were neck and neck, going 220, 230 miles an hour, inches away. And he lifted. And for anybody who's not a race person, it's either my lifting just simply means pull off the gas. Well, by doing all that, it created all this crazy momentum for who? Rosenquist? Yeah, to win. What we didn't see was that Armstrong went from third to fifth because he backed off. And so I was asking Chad and some other forums and stuff. That wasn't a comms. that he got. He didn't get the choice, but on his headset, he made that choice. He gave himself two choices: wreck, which we don't know if would have happened or not, or lift. I wonder what's going to happen to him. I mean, finishing in the top three is pretty good. You get a seat at the table. But going back to fifth, I don't know. What do you think about that?
I think it's a big sacrifice. I think that if you're not in the cars, it's hard to understand the risk and what they're going on. Indy is known as what they call a single groove track. There is one line around the track that the drivers can drive safe. One of the cool things about Indy is it's such a high speed track. They set these cars up and they reduce the downforce on them. And the downforce is what makes the car stable. And they reduce the downforce and they're playing on this knife edge of how much downforce can they take out and still allow the cars to go around the corner at 230 miles an hour and not fly off the track. So they need to be in the groove. They need to be in the rubberest, the best part of the track. And they get out of that, and all of a sudden that knife edge starts to tip one way or the other. And so for those guys to be side by side for, what was it, the first three corners all the way going into the fourth corner was high risk, wheel to wheel. And I don't know. I what a high pressure situation. And I think about like what was going through his head. And I like the idea that he thought, I want our team to win. Not, I'm scared of crashing. And I don't think so. I don't think you make it to the upper echelons of racing and not be a fierce competitor. So I think he must have said, I want our team to win. And if I back off, there's a chance our team wins this. And man, I think that says a lot about his future. But man, that's a hard pill to swallow.
Yeah.
To go home and say, man, I'm fifth place. Like, that's not even like memorable. Who cares?
Yeah. Well, I had asked you. I was like, "Hey, do you remember who got fifth place?" And it was the guy in third. And you're like, "No, actually, I was at the race. I was filming it while I wanted to capture everyone's. I mean, it was electric." And I just assumed that the winner's partner got third because they were side by side. I didn't realize until this morning he had actually gotten to fifth. And I think that's so important to really reflect and break down these moments where they can be lessons. I mean, had I not done that research, I just assumed he got third place and there's nothing more to be said there. But, I was reading into this, and, Armstrong's choice might show that him lifting to go into fifth place allows him to live and adapt and claim a greater territory later. I mean, like, if you think about it, had he gotten in a wreck, he would have maybe been scared of driving him. And when you're going 220 miles an hour, you get in a wreck. I mean, we see it all the time with these racers that they get in their heads. I also am fearful that he's going to drive a little erratic, like, next time's mine, so I'm going to drive a little bit less cautious, right? But Maxwell talks about the goal is more important than the role. And they achieved their goal. As a racing team, they achieved one of the biggest, probably the biggest in IndyCar racing championship. My hope is, and maybe over the next couple of days we'll find out, my hope is that the credit is given to the man who's in fifth place, because he had a huge role in that and he needs to be encouraged. And so anyways, I just think about like that photo finish, and it only captured a small perspective of what really happened. And when you think about like that small perspective of the entire performance, that's how we get in life. Like, we get this tunnel vision where we just hyper focus on these two cars. I mean, millimeters away from win or lose. But the reality, the story, I think, is actually what happened outside of the photo. And then you think about, because when I first started writing this up, I was thinking, who on the team said, we'll be a little faster on the next lap. We'll get him on the next one. We'll do that later. Who didn't lift the tire fast? I mean, we're talking about a sport of like inches and half seconds. I can't even like announce what it was. It was like 1/110th of a second or something. It was something crazy. I've never even like
widest margin of victory in the history of the race. It was, I think it was a few hundredths of a second. Yeah, a few thousandths of a second.
200. So who's responsible for that? Somebody didn't move quick enough. Somebody didn't make a quick enough decision. But what I do know is that there's a lot of story not in that photo finish.
Yeah.
From the lady who wrecked out on 18 to the decision to go red instead of yellow, and that would have ruined the rest of the race, to the person conserving fuel throughout the race towards the end. And they actually the winner, he actually was like in 5th or 6th place for a good portion of the last 30 laps, because he was conserving fuel, because he was getting pulled by these other cars, because he wasn't pitting. And so it's just incredible. All these small decisions compound to a photo finish victory.
Man, there's a lot of lessons in this. So, I think there's probably a lesson for each one of these drivers that we could pull back and draw from. I think from the winner's point of view, from Rosenquist's point of view, he could walk away from this and be like, everyone's going to give him accolades. Dude, you stayed in it. You're a boss. And that could go to his head. Or he could be like, man, if my teammate hadn't done that, if these stars hadn't aligned, I am a recipient of a lot. And if these things hadn't aligned, I wouldn't have this victory. He could see it 2 different ways. And I think those lessons could serve him. Malukas, I imagine the reason that he was sitting in his car crying head in hands wasn't just because he got 2nd place. It was because he spent 3 corners thinking it was his. He'd already won up here. This is mine. He was embracing the victory, and the car comes around him at the photo finish. Yeah. There's a lesson in that, right? About assuming it before, what's the old song, the gambler, you don't count the chips, they're counting the dealing's done, right? There'll be plenty of time to count when the dealing's done.
He was already spending his winnings.
Yeah, he was already celebrating. Of course he was leading the last lap, the last corner. He was out front. The car was behind him. He saw him in his mirror. This is mine.
Dude, you made me think of something as we wrap up. Sometimes we don't have time to ask questions. So both 2nd and 3rd had a split-second decision to lift or to crash. One chose to lift, one chose to crash. He didn't crash because one lifted and one accelerated. There was no like, hey, what do you do? What do you do? There was no hesitation. So while and maybe they had rehearsed it at some level, like, hey, one of us is going to go and the other one isn't. But everything that I Google searched stated one of them made a decision to go, one of them made a decision to live another day. And I don't think that takes away from anyone, and I don't think that you should gain praise for the other one. The important thing is that both people made a split-second decision, and they're going to have to live with it. And what they do next with that decision will define them. So the one that pulled off and went to 5th, his next decision to show up to the race, bigger, faster, and stronger, will define him. And if the winner lets it get to his head, that will define him in that manner. So anyways, I can't wait. I want to encourage you guys to go find the lessons in anything that you enjoy. I mean, if you have a hobby, go find the lessons in that hobby. Go watch golf or go watch football and really dive into this. Y'all, I'm not a big, I have never watched Indy a day in my life before. But after I started diving into the strategy and the decision making and some of the courage and grit, and some were playing with a little bit of fear, which definitely gets us going too, right? The vision, seeing, and then talking to you and how it's so different from Formula One to Indy, but they look exactly the same. Y'all go find the lessons, go find the details that actually make a difference, because somewhere in your business, you're missing something. like what we just talked about. So if you guys are wanting to walk shoulder to shoulder, if you guys need to ask a question or get out of a decision that you're stuck on, give us a shout. Go follow us, like us, share, jump on a podcast with us. In the meantime, I hope you're in that photo finish winning first place. Cheers.